Welcome to the FNO InsureTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsureTech. We talk about how technology and innovation are affecting and driving change in the industry. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world. Welcome to another solo edition of FNO InsureTech. I'm Rob Beller. I am with you by myself today because my co-host, Lee Boyd, is off being the moderator of a fireside chat at the On-Ramp conference put on by Generator. They asked Lee to come be a moderator on the main stage during their conference. And so he's on his way up north to attend that. And we're happy and excited for him. And thank you to On-Ramp for including us in your conference. Today, we have a company that we had on once before, several years ago, and that is VOOM Insurance. We have Tomer Kashi coming to us today from Tel Aviv. And for the first time, we had somebody call our podcast the OG of InsureTech podcasts. The OG, that's right. We are the OG InsureTech podcast, which is a mantle that we'll gladly wear, particularly if you are O like I am. So thanks, Tomer, for coming up with that label. We'll gladly wear it. And VOOM is an incredible MGA, 6-year-old company that insures mobility. They started in the drone space, moved on to motorcycles, ATVs, and other fun things that have very specific usages and have ideas and plans to keep going in this crazy world of mobility. And they have a terrific handle on it. And so we will, without further ado, get right to our interview with Tomer Kashi, CEO and co-founder of VOOM. Hey, everybody. We are here today. I'm here by myself because my co-host Lee Boyd is at the Generator conference On-Ramp today as a moderator of a fireside chat. So that's very exciting. But way more exciting than that is our guest. We have Tomer Kashi with us all the way from Tel Aviv. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh gosh, I wish that was the truth. But seriously, thank you.
Very, very true.
It's great to have you on. You are actually, as you know, the second VOOMer. Is that what you guys call yourself, VOOMers?
Yeah, well, baby VOOMers in our company.
Baby VOOMers. That's right. You're the second one we've had on. We had your co-founder Ori on like 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's correct. And I actually listened to the episode earlier this morning, and he did such a good job. I have like a very high bar to pass now.
Well, we're 2 years down the road, so both of us, I think, will be better at it than we were back then. But so I see you because we do video when we do recording, and I'm looking through the window behind you of this magnificent day in Tel Aviv. Correct? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, the weather is amazing. And, it's a pity that, we are two talking instead of, just like I could go to the beach now. Yeah. And the weather is amazing.
It looks like a beach day. Let's just touch real quick on Tel Aviv. Is it hard? Your main market is the United States. Is that correct? For VOOM Insurance?
Yes. So we have R&D in Tel Aviv, and the go-to-market is, in America. Definitely.
That is. Okay. Is that a challenging thing, running your business that way?
It's a very interesting question because, for us, we don't even think about it. It's like completely natural, regardless of if it's like in InsureTech, there are other like Israeli-based InsureTech companies such as Lemonade and Next and Hippo. Again, the same R&D in Israel and go to market in North America. But same applies also in, other, cybersecurity, fintech, healthcare. All of us are so used to, work in US hours and to have the R&D in Tel Aviv and the go-to-market target market in North America that, for us, it just feels very, very natural.
So do you adjust your work schedule in Israel to kind of coincide with American hours?
It's correct. And actually, I would claim that my work-life balance is much better than a lot of other entrepreneurs that I know that actually live in the US. So I'm, as father of two amazing daughters, I'm, with them every morning, take them to kindergarten. I have like, a full morning for myself. Then I work with the R&D during the day. I come back in the afternoon again to be with my kids because I really appreciate this time. And then at, 9 p.m. when everybody goes to sleep, I can, have another shift and work, with a Tyler, our head of sales that lives in Sacramento. So for me, it's like, the best balance between, really working hard, but also being with your family. Much easier than if I were living in America.
Well, certainly the splash that Israel has made in the InsureTech world is profound. And you were telling me before we got started today that you work in a particular area of Tel Aviv that's dense with technology. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's like very, very interesting because from an InsureTech perspective, you would think, okay, like, the Israeli InsureTech ecosystem is thriving and is, very, very big. But from the Israeli ecosystem perspective, InsureTech actually is not a very, very big thing. We have like so many other, segments that are, even much bigger. So, the cybersecurity segment in Israel, we have, hundreds of startups now,
Sure.
very, very successful ones, fintech in general, healthcare, AI in general. But yes, since like Israel is like a kind of a startup nation, there are a lot of startups in each and every segment. And, I must say that, it really helps. The network really helps. There is a cluster of, VCs and other founders and specialized banks and, friends that can help you along the way. Michael Porter, the professor of strategy, talks about it, about like the clusters that helps each other. So you have it like in the movies industry where you have like in Hollywood, like the producers and directors and actors, everybody lives in the same place. Same applies in startup ecosystem. So Tel Aviv is a hub, New York is a hub, the Bay Area is a hub. So it's a great area to be in as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, very exciting and tremendous educational infrastructure in the country and the infrastructure of the military and its contribution to technology is profound, right? So a lot of people like yourself spend time in the military and get specific exposure and education and training as a result of that.
So I can tell you a little bit about my personal background, and
Please.
then I think it could be relevant for the broader perspective of Israel as something that helped me, and what actually today became VOOM. So I met my co-founder Ori around 15 years ago when we were both drafted to the Israeli army. So like in Israel, army is mandatory and it's basically act as a melting pot. So people from all around the country, from all kind of backgrounds are going to the same place. And all of us are getting the same, exams to be accepted to, this and that unit. And both of us were a part of a very, I would say, like prestigious elite academic program in the army. I think that the US equivalent is something between like MIT Engineering, West Point Military Academy, and Harvard MBA, all rolled into one. So that's where I met, Ori. This is where also, both of us studied computer science and physics for 3 years. and we were later positioned in, R&D leadership roles in the intelligence corp. And I think that something, we were doing cybersecurity. Okay. So, nothing really that, relates directly into InsureTech. But, the network that you get there is so vast. That's one thing. And you work with such talented people from, very, very smart, very, very ambitious. And then you see people around you, literally people that sat in the same room next to me, then founding startups. And, some of them were, have exited in hundreds of millions of dollars, literally in the same room. And you think to yourself, okay, these are very, very smart people, but they are still, human beings.
Right.
Maybe I can, do the same. And obviously it's very naive because you don't see how hard it is, but you're, naive enough to give it a try.
If it wasn't for naivete, so much in our world, in our history wouldn't happen. If people knew better, they wouldn't do it. And so it's a good thing.
So you're very, very naively just, released from the army and, okay, let's start a startup. This is what everybody does, right?
Uh-huh.
And obviously both Ori and I, we thought about doing something in the cybersecurity space because, this is what we know. Mm-hmm. And actually, it was kind of boring. Like everybody's already doing something in cyber. And then we looked at drones. Drones were, very emerging back then and like very, very exciting. So we thought to ourselves, okay, maybe we can do something with cyber and drones. And we actually, both of us tried to like hack some drones, and we even like did it like quite successfully. And then, while, thinking about it and talking with people in the industry, we actually understood that, one of the largest problems in the drone world or the drone ecosystem as a whole is actually safety and insurance. So quite quickly, we partnered with some, insurance executives that, really taught us everything. I didn't know what's the difference between an actuary to an underwriter until several years ago. Sure. And we eventually created, potentially the leading commercial drone insurance provider in North America today, Skywatch. And from there, we actually like evolved into other insurance, niches that we thought could be relevant as well. But that's like maybe like a broader story that I could touch. But just to give like a closer to that, the people that you meet in the early days in the army really give you the courage to say, okay, let's found something, let's create something by yourself. And, eventually over time it works.
Mm-hmm. So when you started, I'm sure you guys considered yourselves technologists. How old is VOOM?
So VOOM today is, I think, like more than 6 years old. Okay. Already.
So now that you've been in the space for 6 years, I bet you consider yourself kind of an insurance guy too, don't you?
Yeah, I think, we're like, I would say like brown belt in each and every segment of the company, from, actuarial science to underwriting to claims to, sales and marketing and customer service. Mm-hmm. And obviously also, data analytics and engineering in general. So I think that what helped us in the core in the beginning is that we built, a born in the cloud policy administration system and a very strong and robust risk analytics engine that is able to take telematics data, external data, and provide some kind of a safety scoring for mobility usage. But it's not enough. Okay. If you get, this like black box of safety scoring to an insurance company, they just look at you and don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. So it's imperative on us or on every startup to really create an end-to-end solution, because the technology is not enough. It's really like the interdisciplinary problem that, needs to work, and all of the value chain needs to work perfectly.
And so we have to take 1 second and tell the audience, even though we've had Ori on, it's been a few years, let's just take a second and set the table of what VOOM is, what you guys insure, what you do. And because then from there, I want to go on and ask particular questions about that. So tell us, let's start with what's Zoom? What do you guys do?
That's a very good idea, Rob. Context is important.
It's important.
So VOOM, in essence, is an InsureTech MGA providing the next generation of insurance products for mobility. Specifically, we target specialty segments in the mobility world that are underserved by major carriers. Just a few examples. So one of our branches, VOOM and Fly, or Skywatch, is our branch for the aviation space, where we provide commercial drone insurance, light aircraft insurance in a digital manner and also on a usage-based insurance basis. Another segment that we have, another pillar, is what we call VOOM and Ride, which is today focusing on motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs. By itself, it's a very, very large market. And this is where we're like the only pay-per-mile insurance provider for this segment. And we're also now working on another pillar called VOOM and Drive that I think that later this year I will be able to announce and elaborate more on.
How does somebody get like your motorcycle insurance? How do they find you? How are you distributed?
So for example, motorcycle insurance is like sold online on VOOMinsurance.com. But, we see our strengths not in the marketing side, but actually in like the product creation side. Because I think a lot of insurance and InsureTech companies has already like disrupted, and we can call it like InsureTech 1.0, like disrupted the way that people are consuming insurance. Okay.
Yes.
And we're also doing it quite well, but it's not our specialty. What we're also trying to do is to disrupt the way that like the insurance product is actually rated. Okay. So in this case, usage-based insurance, 70% of the riders are riding that on average. We are the only pay-per-mile insurance solution. So for 70% of the riders, this is a very, very appealing product. Okay. And, from a lot of surveys, we found something very, very trivial. Customers really care about price. So
shocking.
Shocking. Yeah, because insurance in their eyes, it's a commodity. They want to get they don't want to compromise on coverage, but for the same coverage, they want to get it in a cheaper price. So as an insurance company that doesn't use data, you have two options. One is to lower your rates and just lose money, so high loss ratio. Other is just not to gain any market share. So what we're trying to do, okay, let's get data that others are blind to. And now we can, just segment much better and give good prices for a large portion of the customers without losing money. Now, once you have the foundation, then distribution is, it's natural. Okay, you can go direct. We have hundreds of brokers that we work with. We think that, brokers are here to stay.
Yes.
We're working, with embedded partnerships in the dealership world. We work with influencers just to raise the awareness of the product. So, we work in an omni-channel way. Mm-hmm. Our customer is not the distribution channel partner. Our customers are the end customers. We see ourselves as a B2C company, but we definitely rely on channels, and it's true in motorcycles, it's true in what we do in the aviation space, and, it's true everywhere.
Is distribution in your particular formula for that, is that something that's evolved as you've been in the market longer and have greater insight into how the market works? Or did you set a plan at the beginning and that's where you are today? I'm particularly interested in embedded.
It's a very good question. I think, specifically embedded, it's like the most common term. Maybe, putting aside generative AI, that's like the most common term in insurance that everybody in every, panel talks about, right?
Sure.
And I think that, just having an API to embed your insurance solution is just not enough. Okay. It's like the moat is very, very low. and almost everybody can do it. So yes, we do embedded insurance, but many others are doing it as well.
Yeah.
I think that you need to focus on the fundamentals. So one is to really create a product that is relevant for embedded insurance, or a product is just like good in general. Okay. And two, also, in our case, choose markets that are, relevant and actually like also less competitive. So, embedded insurance in car insurance, like everybody will go after GM and will try to embed their insurance solution into the OEM. But in many other segments, the competition is lower. You are much more differentiated. So it's, it makes much more sense.
So tell me if I'm right here. I would think that, let's talk about motorcycle for a minute. So like my son-in-law, as an example, has a motorcycle. 6 days a week, it sits in his garage because he has a vehicle. He has a car that he needs for work, and he uses his car for work. And he rides his motorcycle when he's on his off time, when he has the opportunity and the time and the space to ride his motorcycle. So I would think that your insight about pay per mile motorcycle insurance would be actually brilliant, because I would think that the percentage of people that use their motorcycle as their primary vehicle is relatively low. And so a lot of motorcycles spend a lot of time in the garage. Is that correct?
That's very correct. So the variance in the usage in motorcycles is actually much more than in cars. Cars, on average are using to commute from one place to another. And in motorcycles, as a recreational vehicle, there is huge variance. And like the lowest tier of usage in terms of miles for motorcyclists could be actually like 5 times safer than the few ones that have a lot of time to ride. And it could be, again, just like people that, that have a lot of time to ride, or actually the other way around, people that don't have a lot of time to ride, our customer segment, or people that ride a lot, but actually have more than one motorcycle. You can't ride all of them at once. Okay. It's another secret that I can tell you. So, and, in many places in America, you can't ride 8 months a year. Okay. So there are only like 4, the riding season is like 4 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened is that people have created their own usage-based insurance by calling the broker to cancel the insurance during the winter time.
It's like streaming for entertainment. You add it when you need it, and then you cancel it when your show is over.
Yeah, but the problem in insurance is that, one, it's mandatory to have insurance. 2, sometimes you do have a good day, so you don't need to, turn on and turn off coverage every time. 3, you still need some layer of insurance to protect your bike. There could be a fire in your garage, God forbid. So it's just not a fit for purpose solution.
Right.
And with VOOM, when we just like pay by the mile, you're covered all year long. You're not compromising on your coverage, but you're paying by the mile. It makes much more sense. And, think about it, there are like 20 or so companies that are doing pay per mile in auto. And in motorcycles, ATVs and UTVs, where it's like much more needed, we're the only ones.
And I would think in particular with ATVs that are very recreationally focused.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure there's people that use their ATVs on a daily basis for whatever their particular application may be. But generally speaking, no, right? It sits on a trailer. You pull it somewhere, you use it, and then it goes back on the trailer, right?
Think about a snowmobile.
The snowmobile.
Would you ride a snowmobile in June?
So in that case, like you said about the fire in the garage, so you pay per mile or you pay per usage, but there has to be some kind of minimum that is always charged for that kind of coverage, correct? Tell us how it works.
Yeah, that's correct. So when you go to the VOOM website, you get a quote, and the quote is divided into two parts. The fixed portion that you need to pay regardless of the amount of usage, and the pay-per-mile portion. So if you're not riding at all, you're paying, only the fixed portion that approximately would be, 30-40% of what you would have paid with a traditional carrier. Mm-hmm. And, everything else is mileage based. So if you're not riding at all, you could save up to 60% on your premium. Mm-hmm. If you're riding on average, you would be rated like an average rider. And if you're riding more, you would pay more. So this way, in this case, you would rather just, work with another carrier. We're not good for everyone, but the reason, because we're not good for everyone, we're very, very good for a large portion of the customers.
And you guys do drones and aircraft is kind of where you started. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Rob, you would think about, what's the connection between all of these, segments? Because theoretically speaking, like a light aircraft, pilot is not exactly the same demographic of a motorcyclist. Could be, and I think that, there are like many commonalities. One, from a risk perspective, since we're usage-based insurance providers, we're targeting things that are high risk and episodic usage. So everything that is like either like gig economy related or like weekend related are things that we're good at. Because again, we're using a new source of data that others are not using in order to rate the policy much better. So if it's like high risk, usually the premium is high. So it makes sense to do something better in order to do some pricing differentiation. And two, episodic. So you can really differentiate it between people that are using it a lot and people that are not. So that's like from a risk perspective, these are like the niches that we go after. And two, always we go after segments that we think are underserved by the major carriers and new sources of data that others are blind to that we can utilize for better underwriting.
Do you offer a product for recreational vehicles, travel trailers and such?
At the moment, not.
Okay.
At the moment, not.
But that would fit in the idea, episodic usage.
That would fit in the idea. Yeah,
things that tend to sit most of the time.
Yeah, people that are, that a lot of people are being overcharged for a lucky few.
Well, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if you're with a major incumbent insurer, you have your cars with them, you have your home with them, and you call your agent and you say, I want to add my motorcycle or my RV or my ATV. It's probably going to have an outsized negative economic impact, meaning it's going to raise your rates because they have to consider it. They don't consider it episodically, perhaps, right? They don't look at it through the lens that you are looking at it, which quite frankly is more accurate. Like you said, or like I said, my son's motorcycle sits in his garage 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even get turned on 6 days a week. So, but I don't know that that's how a large incumbent insurer would rate it. And so clearly your perspective would be advantageous economically for the consumer.
Exactly. And then, you would think, okay, why don't like a large incumbent, large insurer would, get into these markets? And, they're already like playing in these markets. Okay. They have, they're like traditional motorcycle insurance. They're, some of them are, doing a very, very good job in distribution of these products. But then again, most of them are competing on the how easy it is to buy the product and on bundling and on things that are, I would say like the packaging of the product rather than the actual risk and actual, usage of data for better underwriting. And the reason for it is, there are amazing very, very smart and talented people in the large insurance companies. However, innovation in insurance is hard, and product innovation is probably the toughest of problems because it's very interdisciplinary. You need the actuaries involved, and you need the technology, or like they call it IT, involved. And sometimes they have, legacy systems from the 80s and a lot of spaghetti code. So it's like very, very hard to insert a change, especially if it's UBI. And then you have marketing and sales and compliance and channel conflicts and some, cultural challenges. So at the end of the day, creating a product for an insurance company could be like a CEO kind of problem, or like EVP of PNC kind of problem. And it's like very hard. Okay, so you need to decide where you put your bets. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, in many cases, it makes sense to create the best of breed car insurance product that will lower the loss ratio in 1%, or home insurance or SMB insurance, rather than create meaningful innovation in motorcycles or light aircraft or other things that are, I would say, like considered niche. Right. Now, from a startup perspective, it's actually the other way around. It's an opportunity to create. It's not that the segment is underserved. The customer at the end of the day is underserved. So if you create a product that is like much better for the customer, then everything now works, perfectly. The unit economics works. Customers are talking about your product because it's meaningful innovation. It's the first time that people really care about them, and it's not only like an accommodation product. Peter Thiel once said, "Competition is for losers." So you are able to provide something that is like meaningfully better for the customers in a low competition, and still the opportunity is very big because everything in insurance is big. Even like the smaller niche is a multi-billion-dollar niche, and especially when you combine all of these niches together.
Right, and like I think that this is something that the 1.0 InsureTechs struggled with. If you're going to compete with the incumbents on their playing field, I don't know that that's a winning formula. I don't think that's been a winning formula, right? This is no knock on anybody. It's just that's to think that just because they're old and they have systems from the 80s, that they're not entrenched and tough competitors, I think was maybe a missed perception in 1.0. What you're talking about is a 2.0 perspective. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Because, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create usage-based insurance products. That's one thing. And two, in markets where there is no UBI. Okay. So we're trying to create, real differentiation, meaningful value for the customer. There's like a famous saying, if you want to beat Garry Kasparov, then, don't play chess with them, play basketball. So it's the same thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's very well said. Go to a playing field where they're not playing.
Or they are playing, but not in and they could even play much smarter, but, just like, doesn't make sense from an ROI perspective for a large incumbent.
Right. It doesn't move the needle for them.
Even like a $3 billion or $5 billion market doesn't make sense for them to. It makes sense to compete, but not with the UBI product. And again, from an underwriting perspective, we're not smarter than the actuaries. Okay, they're like already like decades of data and hundreds of millions, if not billions, of losses that they learn from, right?
That's right.
Now, Newton once said the only reason that they saw further than others is because they were standing on the shoulders of giants. Mm-hmm. So all of this data is like almost publicly available because it's like filed. You can learn from this as a baseline, and all of the dozens of rating factors we're using as well. Okay, your zip code and type of motorcycle and background and age, we use it. But we also use other data points that others are blind to. Specifically in this case, mileage, but in other cases, we use other data points such as telematics. So it's not that we're like better actuaries. It's just that we have a better data set to learn from.
Let's talk about data for a few minutes. What's your advantage, without getting into the secret sauce, what's your advantage from a data perspective? Like you said, you have incumbents out there who have, tens of thousands of losses, decades of information, understanding that sometimes they might not want to, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Going down the road of making a very specific product might not give them the ROI that they're looking for. But where's your data advantage? How have you grown that and gone about that?
Yeah, okay. So I'm like a product kind of person. Okay. So in product, you really think about things that are, try to focus on the things that are important. So specifically in motorcycles, we try to understand like what's the single data source that others do not have and could be critical on the loss ratio. And after a lot of actual research, we found out that, mileage by far is like basically exposure is something that really creates huge differentiation in the risk. Could be like, 500% between like the lowest tier category and the highest tier category that others are not taking into account. Now, it's not that they are not taking it into account because they think it's not important. They just don't take it into account because there is no easy way to collect it. Because in order to collect it or in order to rate accordingly, you need to make so many changes in your system that it doesn't worth it. Or actually, like in many cases, you already, you are entrenched in the market, so you don't want to cannibalize your book. Okay, so there is like another aspect, especially with leading insurance companies, that sometimes they prefer not to create fairness for the customers because they understand that only like some customers will stay with them and others will just leave. So, we take advantage of that and we say, okay, so mileage is critical. Let's have this data point that others do not have.
And how do you gather the mileage data? Is there telematics? Do you have a device that helps you with that, or where's the reporting come from?
So that's very interesting because, like, before launching the product, you could imagine that we talked with, hundreds, if not, thousands of motorcyclists, and all of them are thinking they are overpaying for insurance. But actually, like, most of them don't want to be tracked. Okay, so like motorcycles are like connected to your freedom, mm-hmm. and they prefer not to be tracked. But mileage, it's not a problem. Okay, I will tell you my mileage anytime. So we decided, to collect only the mileage and not like other telematics data. And we do it simply by a picture of the odometer. So each and every billing cycle, we're sending a text message to the rider with a link. They press on the link, it opens their camera, and they take, a simple picture. We get it. And this way we know how much they ride. Eventually, just like a little secret, motorcycles are going to become connected from the get-go. Okay, so this interface of, taking a picture of the odometer, it's like not the core of the product. The core of the product is the go-to-market, the market education about pay-per-mile, the core policy administration system that knows how to rate by the mile and bill by the mile. And then, one interface is taking a picture of the odometer. In a few years' time, and maybe actually now with a few partnerships that we are considering, it could be just, from the connectivity of the motorcycle. Some motorcycles are, already have like a mobile app, and you have all of the data there.
So tell me this, looking back over 6 years of running an insurance company, I know you're an MGA, but to most of your customers, you're an insurance, you appear to be an insurance company. Share some of the things that you've either been surprised by or that you've learned that you didn't realize, like we were talking about being naive, when you go in and become a startup and you make that leap forward. Share some of the wisdom that you've gained 6 years in. That's a long time in our business, in the InsureTech world. 6 years is like an incumbent. Share some wisdom.
So obviously we learned so much because we knew so little. So again, as I said, like 6 years ago, we didn't know what's the difference between an actuary to an underwriter. And now we understood so many things about the industry. So I think that, one thing that we realized, and luckily for us, quite quickly, that we are giving a lot of credit to insurance companies, and we're seeing them as partners rather than, competitors. And we need to understand, what's our, unique value proposition. What are the things that we can do for the world that others will struggle with? And for us as a startup, it's technology and agility. Our strategy, really formed over time. As you know, we started only with drones. Okay, so we started only with commercial drones as an emerging technology. And eventually we became probably the largest commercial drone insurance provider in North America.
Wow.
But then our strategy evolved, and we tried to think to ourselves, okay, what other fields are there where, data is important? Traditional insurance companies would struggle to innovate. And then we understood, okay, the entire mobility ecosystem as a whole is moving rapidly. And maybe, the mobility ecosystem is moving much faster than insurance. Okay, so that's, let's create an entire company and create multiple products, multiple success stories like we had in drones that have a lot of synergies between them.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe opening brackets about the mobility ecosystem as a whole, because I think that there are a lot of interesting opportunities over there. So we see three major trends in mobility for the time being. So one is new platforms, such as, again, drones or e-scooters, maybe autonomous cars that need to be insured in one way or another. The second one is increased connectivity that allows for better underwriting, like we do with motorcycles, or embedded insurance, or both. And the third one is new types of utilization. So not only car ownership, but also car share, ride share, deliveries, and many other forms of utilization. So all of these shifts are creating, basically, breaking the traditional model of only car, only ownership, only not connected. And there are so many opportunities for new products, or just creating the next generation of existing insurance products. This is the area that we think that we have a strategic advantage in. And we built internally a platform that allows us for this product innovation at the end of the day for the benefit of the customer.
So you can plug in as these things mature and gain wider acceptance in the market, or succeed or fail, your platform supports rapid integration and optimization within, right?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
So where do you see? Yeah. Please go on.
Another thing that we learned about the industry is how important it is to move fast and try things fast, and if they fail, change. So one of the products that we looked at back in the day was e-scooters, and this is an area, again, an emerging area, a new risk, and we really looked at what can a company like us do in this kind of field, either to sell e-scooter insurance to private owners, or to work with the Birds and Lions of the world in order to offer embedded insurance through them. And eventually, as a nascent market, we just saw that there is not enough regulation around that requires people to have insurance, not enough customer awareness. And we understood that, maybe it's, it wouldn't be wise to put all of our eggs in this basket. Okay. But with our ability to move fast and change fast and pivot fast, we took the same models that we created and focused on the more established market, which is motorcycles, ATVs, UTVs that, is established today. With the idea to, eventually venture into e-bikes, e-scooters as well in the future. So another, it's from the outside, everything, looks you go, on the up and up, but, internally, obviously you need to, do a lot of trial and error, but the key is to move fast and to learn, as quickly as you can, in order to improve and to find the right solutions.
It's fascinating in the world of mobility, just walking down the streets, Okay. Yesterday, or the day before, I was walking with my son by a store, and parked out front was a Bird e-bike. And it made me think, gosh, this space is changing so quickly, right? I mean, Bird was the scooter, one of the first, if not the first company out there. And look what happened to scooters. But we've also seen different mobility platforms come and go already in just a few years. Some succeed, some don't. I was in New York City recently, and my son and I rented e-bikes off the City Bike rack. They have e-bikes. And so it's an incredibly fast-moving world, mobility. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm sure that there's very smart people that are thinking about, where's this going to be in 10 years? I mean, it's probably going to be crazy what's out there in 10 years. Do you have any thoughts on that? Where's it heading? It's not optimized. It's not done yet.
So I think that it's clear that the way that people move from one place to another or deliver things from one place to another is going to have a tremendous change. And again, but it is true not only for e-bikes, it is true for platforms. It also could be like platforms in the air. It also could be, again, like new types of utilization. So not only ownership, but, robots or semi-robots or like semi-autonomous, delivery vehicles, or just like, taxis that move you from one place to another. So this is not, something that is going to take place tomorrow. But, over a decade, you will see more and more changes. And the mobility ecosystem of a decade from now would not look the same as it is today. There will be things that are, sometimes like overhyped and will take time until they really come into fruition. I think that, it happened in scooters and also to some extent in drones, where like the expectations were very, very high in the beginning.
Right.
And then, over time you understood, okay, it will take time until it, becomes like completely mainstream. But now actually it just like grows. Okay. It's like a real industry that grows over time and regulation opens and you're really going to see, delivery with drones, and urban air mobility, moving people. So the entire like mobility ecosystem is going to change, tremendously. What exactly are going to be the things that, we'll see like more adoption in first and what's later is like yet to be seen. Specifically, I think that there is a lot of changes that are going to take place, especially in the trucking space. It's not an area that we operate in, but I think that this is like a very, very interesting area, not only from insurance perspective, but also, in logistics and supply chain in general.
Mm-hmm. And so understanding that it's such a dynamic space, what can you share about your future at Zoom? What can you tease us with?
So at VOOM, our core platform allows us to create an insurance product in terms of months instead of years.
Right.
All we need is to, and reason being, okay, it's not only the technology. We already have like the relationship with, a panel of reinsurance carriers, and we know how to go to market in a new segment. So it's not only that, we have the policy administration system that, could theoretically create like a new product. And now it's actually, and it's not easy. We need to think internally where we put our resources. Is it on the growth of existing product or actually like on the R&D of new opportunities? Because there are, many opportunities that we're seeing all the time, either from things that we see strategically or from customers or partners that come up with their idea for, for a new segment that a company like ours can do. But again, in the broad perspective, I think that everything mobility is relevant, especially things that are high risk and episodic usage, where like data can really help in pricing it. Mm-hmm. And also, not places that many others are already doing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you won't see us do like another, UBI for personal auto.
when you're surfing, you want to find a spot that has fewer surfers, because then you get more waves. And so that's what you're talking about. But it's interesting to hear, and it's always interesting to talk to a company like yours who has some history now, and as an MGA, to hear about how the startup is maturing, right? Because that's one of the things that I was hearing today was, I mean, this 6-year journey has brought you to this level of understanding and know-how to create an insurance company, right? And you're asking yourself the questions that businesses ask themselves when they've succeeded over time. Not, where do we start? But rather, how do we maintain this growth trajectory into the future?
And Rob, maybe another thing that we learned along the way, and I think it's related to insurance, but related to running a business in general. We're trying to build here the business as VOOM, not in order to prepare for the next round of funding. We're trying to create a foundation together with a really amazing team, Ori, my co-founder, and Tyler, Amirli, or our leadership, that can really create a profitable business over time and to create meaningful value for the customer. So we're already quite a long while in the market, and we move strategically in a way. We go fast, but we do it with good unit economics, with a healthy growth, very healthy loss ratio. Because we don't only see that the next in a year or two from now, we really want to create like a long-term business here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's how you do it. It's been wonderful and a pleasure to have you. It's great to get not only the update on VOOM, but also to meet you and to hear your perspective from the CEO seat. I hope to come to Israel soon and meet you. Just so our audience knows, I got an invite for coffee.
You are invited. For me, it was a great honor and pleasure to be a part of this podcast. As I told you, Rob, just before, and you are one of the OGs of InsureTech podcasting, way before it was cool.
I can't get over that.
And I listened to so many episodes, on like X2 playback speed, but I did listen to a lot of them. So it's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much.
It's interesting to have on two different leaders from the same company giving their perspectives. And like Tomer said, it's been 2 years plus since we've had on his co-founder, Ori Blumenthal. And it's wonderful to hear about their growth and their maturity and the anchor that they've been able to put down to secure their spot in this business. Very interesting, very aggressive, very smart. We talked offline afterwards, after our interview, about some specific product ideas that are just incredible. And it's cool to watch and cool to be a part of. And we thank both of them, but mostly Tomer for making himself available and giving us a beautiful view that we had on the video of the city of Tel Aviv. And we thank all you for being here. Thanks to our production staff, Al and Alicia. And until next time, goodbye, everybody.